Hello, everyone. It is Melina and
Jordan.
and we're back with you again as the board certified BAes.
Bae.
Hello. How you doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. I don't know. Today I was like, oh, I'm recording a podcast today. It just didn't feel real until like right now. And now it feels kind of cool to be here doing it.
Love.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And seeing that smile on your face when you're getting ready to start. So it's like, yeah.
That's funny. Well, today we are talking about Premack Principle. Can I tell you something that I think of every time I hear Premack Principle?
Sure.
Return of the Mac. You know that song?
Of course I do.
Okay, I
But
never told you that, but that's what I was
just
thinking.
because it says Mac,
Yeah.
what's the pre got to do with it?
That's just what I think, because like maybe we got to return back to Premack Principle. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. we can go with that.
Okay.
But
Well, anyways,
fun little sidebar, but all right.
what is Premack Principle, Jordan?
It is. What are you doing?
There's a dog here. Okay, go ahead. What is Premack Principle?
That was the most random thing I think you've done on a podcast. So Premack Principle is a principle in which we do harder tasks first before getting the reinforcement, right? And it's to show that making that difficult task complete is then received well by getting a pretty cool thing afterwards. Like that's for the simplest, like layman's terms. Yeah, because you can say it's providing a non-preferred stimulus in the beginning and then followed by a preferred stimulus and start getting a little more technical with it. But in the simplistic version, it is that you perform a task that you find difficult to yourself, whatever degree, or our students or clients, whichever name you prefer. And then you provide them with something that is preferred afterwards. And then that is the way the Premack Principle works. It's also very similar to pretty much every contract you've ever signed.
I was going to ask you if there's anything this week that you use Premack Principle on yourself.
Myself?
Yeah.
I think I do that all the time, actually.
Okay, so can you think of one example from just this week?
Yeah. I'll go to the gym and then I can have a little candy bar because we're coming off of that Halloween treat basket that's still sitting around.
I kind of had the same thing this morning. I don't work out every morning. I'm not gonna flex and make it seem like I do. But this morning I worked out, and it was rough. But it was like, okay, first I do this workout, then I get a coffee.
Of course, that would be your Premack Principle. I feel like that is your Premack Principle for everything.
Yeah, so that was nice because it was worth it for sure. I was actually proud because I just kept it to what I agreed with myself. I didn't get a breakfast sandwich. Okay. I didn't get no pastry. So anyways, okay, cool.
I get it. That makes sense. Showing some restraint there. Way to go. So good. High five. Hand hugs. All right. Yeah. I mean, we use Premack principles all the time. Your job is essentially a Premack principle.
Yeah.
Right. Like you sign a contract or a job offer in order to work at a place. You fulfill the duties, you get paid.
Okay. So like when we're in clinic or when we're doing services in home, when is a great time to apply Premack principle?
Before problem behavior. Establishing it first. I think the most important thing is like, for the clients that we serve and for ourselves as well, it's important to know what's coming at the end, or like what are the expectations, right? And I know we've talked about this in other episodes, but having clear expectations, Premack puts it in a very simplistic version. It's like there's first this, then that, right? And that's typically the language that we use all of the time in the field. But knowing that there is this, seemingly difficult or non-preferred task or something that might be a little bit harder is first, and then I get to do something that I might want or is more desirable, more preferred afterwards. The whole goal behind it is it's to incentivize doing something that is a little bit difficult or getting through the first thing first, right? And you got to have motivation to be able to do that first thing. And that's kind of how it works. So the best time I think to use it is to establish it in the beginning. It's don't wait for problematic behavior or dangerous behavior, or self-injurious behavior, any sort of behavior to occur before you say like, oh yeah, I should use the Premack principle. Bad time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think, yeah, that brings up kind of a realm that is a little bit different, which would technically be more so bribery, right? So
Yeah.
bringing up like, oh wait, remember if we do this, then we get this. But it's like in the middle of them, like having like I think about like even just having a toddler, right? So like if it's like times where I have to pick and choose where to, use kind of Premack, what you're saying, right? Because there has been times where I've had to catch myself wanting to be like, hey, remember we're supposed to be doing this for this, cake pop or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wait. And like have to catch myself, right? Because again, it's like setting up that expectation beforehand, like you were saying with the paycheck, right? First work, then paycheck. Same with just like setting up expectation beforehand. Whereas in bribery, then we start to enter that realm of like there's a behavior occurring, and now we're trying to represent what is available to them if they do X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, bribery is a big one, and I think early on in the field, I believe, I was having this conversation with a BCBA at the time about just the verbiage and the language that we use around it. But it really only comes down to one thing when looking at the difference between a Premack and bribery. And a lot of people out there are using bribery without even realizing that they're using bribery. Just is that a high five or is that a question?
No,
Or
that's
is
you saying like when I was a teacher, I used it a lot without realizing it.
Yeah.
And there were times where I'm like, now I look back and be like, well, that makes sense why that was a reoccurring issue because I kept using it at the wrong time.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's take a moment to talk about bribery then, right? Like bribery is a tool that people use in order to get things to go a way that is desirable for that individual, right? So if a kiddo is doing something that I might not want them to do, if I bribe them, it's for my benefit, not necessarily for the individual's benefit. Right. So that's a big takeaway, number one. Number two is that bribery works 100% of the time, but it is a short-term solution for a long-term problem.
Yeah.
Because it promotes reoccurring issues like you just mentioned.
Yep.
Right. If we are bribing, we are using something in order to decrease behavior, and to get back on track. So decrease behavior and get back on track, whatever that may look like for that session. But if we're doing that, then we're doing the wrong thing, because what is the thing that increases behavior?
Reinforcement.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a trick question?
No, it's not a trick question. Like we know that reinforcement will increase behavior, right? Because it produces an outcome that is preferred for an individual. Now with bribery, if we're going to use that same reinforcing item in order to remind them or suggest to them that it's coming, right, in order to get them back on track, sure, that could be considered a reminder, but remember what it is that you're doing in the foundational level, right? You are presenting something highly preferred in a inopportune moment, not a good time to do so, as a way to stop or decrease or get back on track to the correct behaviors, right? So therefore, bribery versus Premack, it's all about the timing. If you establish what it is that they're working for, what it is that they can potentially get, or even if you do this with yourself or your friends, your loved ones, whoever it is, if you can establish beforehand what it is that's going to happen, then you're working in the Premack principle and you're still working with reinforcement. Now, after problematic or difficult behaviors occur, right? I tell her to do something, she starts running away, and then I remind her that, hey, I'll buy you a rose later, right? And she comes back and does it. Well, she's only coming back for the rose, not actually the instructional control that we're looking to have. And therefore, I'm bribing her because the next time that she performs some troublesome task, she's going to look for a reminder or something to get in order to decrease that behavior. And so timing is the most important critical piece of bribing versus not bribing. So if you are in a situation where kids are performing, or your clients or your students or your loved ones, whoever it is that you're talking about, right, is doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing, they're working hard, they're trying their best. Well, this is a time to tell them everything that they're going to get at the end of it. Why not? You want to keep that momentum going. Those reminders are helpful there, but the reminders are not so helpful during times of escalation or troublesome, problematic behaviors that may be difficult or harmful or dangerous. It's not a good time to do that. Granted, if safety is ever an issue, throw all of it out of the window.
Please and thank you.
Right. If your kiddo is dancing in front of a freeway or on the freeway, you got to use whatever tool you got in your arsenal to get them into a safe place. And I will always stand by that. And in training, I always talk about it. But you want to make sure that if those things are already accounted for and in a good place, you do want to make sure that you're presenting things at the right time.
Yep.
All right. Because, reinforcement keeps behavior consistent. Right. I know here's the request that was given to me. Here is the behavior that I'm exhibiting, and here's my reinforcement. It is a linear line. Like they are all in the same behavioral pattern or same level, right? If I escalate and then I get reminded that, oh yeah, you're getting a cookie after this, and I de-escalate, and then I start getting tokens, I start getting reinforcement again, I start getting cookies, right? What I learned is escalate, that reminds my staff member, my parent, to start reinforcing me again, and then I'll come back down, then I'll get what I want right then and there. And so you end up with this spiky pattern of behavior, which is exactly what you were talking about with it recurring.
Yep.
So knowing the difference between Premack and Bribery, it does come down to the timing and not the language, right? Because it's like, I had a staff member tell me once before, it's like, I'm bribing them, right? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, I just told them, I'm going to give you this for doing that. And I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, that in the movies, that absolutely sounds like bribery, right? Because of the way that you used your language to describe it. But they're in a very calm state. They're happy. And they're like, yeah. And they followed through. So that's not bribing them. That was a Premack principle, just wasn't framed in the first then language. And I think it's important to know that.
Yeah.
I know I kind of just rambled on there a little bit. So feel free to chime in.
No, I mean, yeah, I think you hit it all. So.
Wrapped it up. Nice little bow.
Yep.
So let me ask this then. You said in the classroom you had done bribery and didn't even realize. When you started in the field before you stopped being a teacher, so did you learn the bribery and then take it back and try and fix it as a teacher, or did you not fully grasp it until after?
Yeah, not right away. One, the week of training that I had was good, but you don't go into that stuff.
Just a week.
Yeah, I'm like, you don't go into that kind of stuff in the beginning, right? You're talking about the major things like reinforcement, functions of behavior, ABC data.
I would
like
definitely argue that it should be in the beginning.
Yeah, but it wasn't. So, anyways, so so at the time I was doing after school. Was it summer when I started?
Yeah, but yes, and then you stayed.
Yeah. So then actually maybe I did learn it during the summer that I was there, because I remember the first time I did bribe a child, and the person that was supervising the social group in the time was like, you can't do that. That's bribery. And I was like, okay. Like that was kind of the explanation. I think it could have been delivered differently, especially because I was new to the field, and I was like, are you going to further explain? Like there was no explanation after that. So I was like, I would have probably felt the same way as your staff that was like, did I just bribe them right now? You know? I'm like, so, okay. But yeah, I was like, I think a kid was like getting out of line, and it was like, there was going to be a prize at the end of the group. So then there was like, don't forget, there's this prize on the line kind of thing. And so, yeah, I got shut down real quick. So because of the fact that I didn't really get an explanation as to the why, like what made that bribery, um, I think I still used it in the classroom setting. I would say though, even when I did know the difference, there were still times where I had to use bribery in the classroom as well. So I will also say that.
Yeah. Well, you're probably battling a couple of things, right? Old habits die hard.
Old habits die hard. You're not working with one client.
Yeah.
You're working with a full class. I mean, my class is still smaller than most, but it was still more than one kid at a time. So, if I'm trying to teach one group and the other group's not listening and trying to get them back on track so that I can keep going with my math lesson before I lose my other group. So, yeah, it's just it's hard when you have more than one student that you're trying to tend to, and you're just trying to like you were saying, a fix quick, like quick fix, but then long term problem, right? So it's like when you have the capacity, when you have the time, yeah, it's easy to try to implement it, Premack principle, but there's times where it's not possible.
Yeah. And it serves as such a good reminder too that kids do need reinforcement. Like
Hmm.
the clients that we're serving or the individuals, whoever that may be, they do need reinforcement. Like we operate really well off of receiving praise, receiving reinforcement, being, acknowledged for doing something appropriate in whatever capacity that is.
Yeah.
And so I find that we fall into those traps, and bribery comes out more often in the times when the staff have forgotten to continually praise them for different
Yes.
things.
Yes.
And they fall silent for a little bit, and then they act out. And it's like, hey, remember? It's like, no, like that behavior was because you're not paying attention to all the good things that are happening right now, that they still need just a little bit of encouragement to keep.
Yeah.
And that's where it falls kind of hard. And, and even when talking to staff, there are times when I'll say, like, yeah, like that's because of you. We've got to look at what we can change together for you.
Yeah.
And then I'll also tell them, like, it's not like harsh like that. It also has a part of like, it's my fault because I'm not training you well enough. Right. So it's my fault that you're doing this, but it's happening because of us. So we need to change.
Hmm.
Right. We need to meet the client where they are and share those things appropriately and reinforce at the right times. So that's, again, where timing comes in. It's all about that time. If you don't have the right timing, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
That's where the Premack principle comes in.
Yep.
Do it first. Establish it first.
Yeah.
Establish those motivators.
I think too, I don't even know if this is necessarily related, but I feel like too, Premack can be helpful for our friends that need priming. Um, because like, for example, like maybe we have a client that like going to the bathroom isn't preferred.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, first we're gonna do, and so that's tricky, right? So it's like letting them know, like, yeah, we're gonna do this thing, bathroom first. So one is giving them a forewarning about that, let them simmer on that for a second, and then giving them like, something that's preferred. And then we're gonna go to the closet to go get some more toys and blah blah blah. So I also find that Premack can also be helpful just to prime some of our clients as well, whether it be intentional or not. I think it's like a twofold, like setting them up for success as much as possible, but also setting them up for success by priming them for, like, it's like a visual schedule. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, I often like get irked a little bit, or I'm like, oh, when I see like a staff member using, or a therapist, a kiddo starting to escalate. They don't have anything like established, and then they bring out Premack. It's like, it's still a bad time.
yeah.
But they're like, no, I'm using Premack because I said first then. I was like, we get, as therapists, I feel like we get so locked into the verbiage and how things are like stated in the textbooks or how we're taught, that we miss the concept entirely. Right? Like all of it. It doesn't come down to first then.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the language that we use all the time. And maybe that's our fault as a field for making things that so systematic,
Yeah.
and
then
the
with like
technical terms stay the same throughout.
well too, I'm like, we always talk about being flexible, but then sometimes we're the most rigid.
Yeah. So just like using that language is hard because we get stuck only on that language. But first, then, if you break it down, it's just like we talked about in the beginning. It is something is difficult is presented first, and something reinforcing or positive is going to be at the end of it. And that's where the first then comes from. And in the field, we're always shrinking things down to be like the most basic and simplest language for our learners that may not be able to comprehend as many words in a sentence. So first then is only 2 words, and that makes it a lot easier. But then we don't need to keep those same words as we start working with kids that are older. And that's kind of where we get stuck. And we kind of have like these, I don't know, systematic cuffs on our hands because we get stuck in to like, this is the way it has to be. This is the system. This is the way the system was intended to be used. This is what it was made for. And these are the words that I was, associate with these. So I have to stay in that.
Yeah.
Or stay cuffed to that.
Yeah.
To make the analogy make sense. But, so that's where we kind of lose out there.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so as a parent, do we use bribery?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. But you know that it's bribery, so why do you use it? Like you. Just you.
Just me. I know. I'm getting attacked right now.
I'm just kidding. Why do we use it?
I'm not speaking for you.
When do we use it?
I'm not speaking for you. I'm going to speak for myself.
Okay.
I try very hard not to use it. But I think that's where for me at least, it's when that timing comes in, of even just saying like, hey, we're doing this. First, in the middle of it, I'm like, nah, hypocrite, doing the things that I don't like seeing in session. And I know that, but sometimes just as parents, you just got to get through the day.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. Like you can't be on all the time, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to slip up. We're human. We're going to acknowledge that. We're going to own that. And we think it's completely fair for your parents out there to not get it perfect every time.
Yep.
Not get it right every time, even though you may have a BCBA, hunting you down, trying to tell you like you're doing it wrong. First, you might want to find a different BCBA if they're doing that.
Also, do they have kids? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, it's having kids is great on so many levels, but it does help us to, or at least myself, to resonate more with some of the families that we're working with. It's like, yeah, like, no, I understand the struggle. I am not going to put anything on your plate that you do not think you can handle.
Yeah.
Right. That's not fair. And knowing that as a parent. So having that, humble side and recognizing that and being fair, keeping in those constraints, those resource constraints in mind. Yeah. I make the mistake. I bribe. I bring out reinforcement at the wrong times, but I would definitely say that it does not happen as often as I'm probably making it out to be.
Yeah.
I am typically pretty good at following through the right way and providing reinforcement.
Sometimes you follow through at the wrong time too, though. I'll say it's like 7:59 and she goes to bed at 8, and I'm like, just give in, just go, just let it go.
Nah. Just because she has to go to bed, like we put her bedtime at 8.
No, because she's tired. That's why you're arguing with a tired 2-year-old.
I was not arguing. I was just like, no, not letting it go.
Oh, we can agree to disagree. Anyways, but yeah, no, I agree. I definitely bribe at times
agree.
as
Thank
well. No, to disagree. We can agree to disagree.
No, but then you just said I agree. Like you said, I agree.
I agree that we do bribe sometimes.
Okay.
When
I'll switch it up.
When we feel depleted,
we can roll that back. We can roll that back.
When we feel depleted, it's easy to bribe.
Yeah.
We try not to, but yes, we do. And we're not going to even pretend like we don't. At this point, I feel like I don't even know if it counts, but I feel like I bribe my almost 6-month-old as well. Like if she's, I know, I don't know.
This is news to me. I'm going to have to watch you now.
Well, yeah, I just feel like if there's behavior at night when she's not going to sleep, she's just being like really difficult. I'm like, just here, let me just breastfeed you. Right.
Oh, that's
you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like survival mode. Like I'm so exhausted. Please just go to sleep. Even if it's you're just trying to get access to la leche. I still am like, okay, fine. This time I'm gonna let you.
You just throw out some spank. All right.
Anyways, I think that's pretty much everything. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else to hit on that?
No, I think it's a great topic, and I think for all you, up and coming BCBAs and therapists and yeah, anybody else in the field, really think about how and when you're presenting things that are positive or reinforcement, to not end up creating a behavior that is not what you want, right? Or a recurrence of behavior that's not what you want. And always just remember timing.
Yeah.
Timing's with everything.
Absolutely. Well, let's see.
Do not ask me a random question.
Why? Then can you ask me one? You never asked me any. I feel neglected.
Because you're quicker at those than I am.
Okay, so can you think of one, or do you want me to ask you one?
No, fine. What is your favorite candle smell right now?
Ooh, okay. I'm on a lavender kick.
Okay.
The end. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in. We
All
hope
right.
you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you again soon.
All right. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.